In Dinosaur World, you are building your own theme park of dinosaurs. Why does that theme feel so familiar? Well, never mind. In this game, you are building your own park and you are collecting DNA to, well, grow up your little dinos. And in this video, I'm gonna show you how to set up this game, but also how to play it. So let's take a look at this pretty game. To start with, we need to place out the 3 islands in the middle of the table for all players to easy reach. Next, we need to split up the attractions to their specific group. As you can see, there are 4 different types of attractions. Then we need to put these attraction tiles out on the attraction island. And you can see that there are spaces matching the attraction tiles. And we put these attractions out on their spot faced up. Next, we need to separate the special building tiles. You can see that there's one pile with A, one with B, and one with C. We should shuffle these separately. Then we should place C in the bottom, and B on top of C, and lastly A on top of B. This pile of tiles fits perfectly in the hole of the top of this board. As you can see, this is the special building island. And now we should reveal the top 4 tiles faced up out on this island. Now we need to shuffle together the dino paddock tiles and place them in the bottom of the dinosaur paddock island. Again, we need to take some tiles and put them faced up on this island. In this case, 3 tiles faced up. Then we need to create a supply of workers, dinosaurs, and all the different tokens. I will tell you more about these in a bit. We then need to put out the notice board, but also the first round tracker on round number 1. And then we need to shuffle the worker database cards and put them face down next to this board. We take the 9 DNA die and then we put them in the big blue bag. So that was the main board, but we also need to set up our player areas. First, each player needs to take a lab board. This one here. This is where we will generate our DNA. Then we need to take a park board. This one here. And from here we will build our park. And we start with the welcome center in the middle of the park board. If you are the first player, you should take the first player token. But each player also needs to take these components in a color of their choice. We have the Jeep token, we have the objective tokens, we have the route tokens, we have the Jeep bonus tokens, but also 12 resource cubes. And these cubes needs to go on your lab board. And this is the way you should place your cubes. 3 on your basic DNA on number 2 of those tracks. On your advanced DNAs, you should put them on 1. You should put them on 0 and 0 on your threat and security track, and all the way down on 0 on your Jeeple upgrade track. But we also need to put out 2 cubes on the public noticed board. We'd put 1 on 0 on the excitement level and 1 on 0 on the victory points. We need to put our cubes in the turn order that we are playing the game. Red one will go first, then yellow, and then green. In the end phase, these will be reset in a different order. We need to take the objective cards and split them up in their piles. We got A, B, and C. Then we need to shuffle these piles and draw 1 card from each pile and put them faced up for all players to easy see. The rest of the cards go back into the box. We put our objective markers next to the objective cards. Now we need to take our little meeple Jeep here and place it in our welcome center. But we also need to place out some of these route tokens on our lab board. We place 1 on level 3, 1 on 4, and the other one on 5. The 2 that we have left goes next to the board. Now we also need to take 1 of our bonus tokens and put it on the first spot on the lab board. and get that bonus immediately. Beside the bonus, we also get some starting coins. How many you get depends on which player you are. Player number 1 would get 8, number 2 would get 9, 3, 10 and 4, 11. Next, it's time for us to draft some buildings. We need to draft some dino paddocks, but also some special buildings. And we need to take the same amount of tiles from each of these piles as we are players, plus 1. So this is a 3-player game, meaning that we should draw 4 tiles from each pile. Now we need to place them out on the table for all players to easy reach. Starting with the first player, they get to choose 1 tile from one of the 2 different piles and take 1. Now the player to their left will take there. Then we will go around the table until each player have taken 1 tile and put in front of them. Now we will do the same thing, but in the reverse direction. And you cannot choose from the same pile this time. Meaning that if you chose a special building on your last draw, well, now you need to choose a dino paddock. Once each player have 2 tiles each, well, it's time for us to place them in the park. The leftover tiles will simply go in a discard pile. When we put these new tiles into our park, we need to make sure that they are connected with one of the 4 available spaces around the welcome center. Meaning that I could put this tile up here, and I could choose to put the other one down here. So that, my friend, was the setup of Dinosaur World. A game where you are running your own dinosaur park. You will grow up new dinosaur species by collecting DNA. You are building up your park piece by piece, trying to get the people to have a good time and hopefully not get eaten. Each round is played out during 5 different steps, and during the first one, we get to hire some workers. During this step, we need to flip over worker database cards facing up, and we need to flip over the same amount of cards as we are players plus 1. This is a 3-player game, so we flip over 4 cards. Now, in turn order, each player gets to pick 1 card and then take the same workers as the card says. Meaning that if you pick this card, well, these are the workers that you should take from the general supply. So now we have some workers, but we also need to put them to work, right? Well, that is where phase number 2 becomes active, because now we can do public actions out on the board itself. And here you should think about saving some of your workers to your private actions that will come later. But to see what public actions we can do, we need to draw some die from the die bag. Here we should draw the same amount of die as we are players plus 2. Once we have our die, we need to roll them. And then we need to place them out on the fields on the central island. So the first public action would be to gather some DNA. These DNAs are needed to evolve dinosaurs, remember? First you need to select which DNA die you would need to use. This one here, for example, a basic one. Now you can choose to spend 1 or 3 workers to gather this DNA. The DNA that you choose will then be multiplied by the number of workers that you have chosen to put into this task. Meaning that if you spend 2 workers, you would get all DNA on this die twice. And then we need to advance on the DNA track that we choose to put workers on. In this case, the basic yellow. Meaning that we should move the cube up 4 steps. But you should of course advance on the track matching the DNA you chose. Now, there are a few different types of DNA. The blue, red and yellow are the basic ones, while these ones over here are the more advanced DNAs. But some of these die are multicolored, meaning that here you get to raise on any of the basic DNAs, and here you get to raise on any of the advanced DNAs. When you gather DNA and you use a scientist, you get to gather plus 1 DNA of any type, basic or advanced. But you could also choose to build one of the available dinosaur paddocks and bring them into your park. To do this, you need to spend 2 workers and then pay the amount stated in the top left corner. In this case, 1 coin. meaning that this one here would cost you 2 workers and 1 coin. Or you could choose to use an administrator, and in this case you would only need to pay 1 meeple, but you would still need to pay the cost. When you have taken the tile, you need to refill that spot immediately. And you will do that by following the lines down on the map itself. Meaning that if you took the first, you would simply refill that. But if you took a higher one, you would need to push the tiles around. The tile that you have bought needs to be put into your park immediately. But there are a few rules to place a new tile in your park. The tile must be alongside at least one of the other tiles in your park. So you can't just put it for itself. The dino pads cannot be next to each other. And you cannot have 2 tiles with the exact same name in your park. And this includes attractions. If you are not able to place your tile according to these rules, well, you cannot place it. But in this case, we could just place it here if we like to. The next public action would be to buy one of the attraction. And remember, you can only have one of these in your park. Here you don't need to spend any workers, but you would need to pay the amount and follow the same placement rules. The last public action would be to build one of the special buildings. Here you need to spend 1 worker of any color, but also pay the amount in the top left corner. If the tile that you chose have a victory point symbol but also a lightning bolt next to its name, well, you will gain that victory point right away. But when you place this in your park, you do not get the benefits on the bottom part of this tile just yet. This will first be later when you choose to go there with your Jeep. And just like we did with the paddock, we would need to refill the now empty spot with a new tile. So that was the public actions out on the islands. In phase number 3, we go back home, and now we do the private actions in our own park. And since this is private actions, we can all do this simultaneously. The first private action we're going to look at is DNA refinement. Here you can alter the DNA you have already gathered if you have the right combination. And you can spend up to 3 workers to do this. Meaning that you could spend 1 red and 1 blue basic DNA to create 1 purple advanced DNA. Or 1 basic yellow and red to get 1 orange. Just as you could do the reverse. You could choose to spend 1 purple advance to get 2 of the basic ones. 1 red and 1 blue. Next we have VC fundings. And here you can place workers to get coins. For each worker you place here, you get the amount of coins stated on the space where you put your worker. Meaning that on the first one you will get 3, then 2, and then 1. But again, if you use the green meeple here, meaning the administrator, you will get +1 coin. Next we have security, which you will need in a park full of dinosaurs. So here you would put meeple on the spots below, and for each meeple you put here, you can go up 1 step on the security track. But you also need to pay the amount of coins stated next to the track. Meaning that if you move up 1 step on the first one, you would need to pay 1 coin. On the second one 2, and then 3, and lastly 4. But if you use the security meeple here, you actually get to pay 1 coin less. Next to security, we have the Jeeple garage. And this one works kind of like security. You can put meeple down on the spots here to advance on the Jeeple track. You also need to pay the coins stated next to the track. But when you get up on number 3 here, you actually get to take the root token. And once you come up on a new level, you also get to take 1 Jeeple upgrade and put it in your slots. And you will immediately gain the bonuses on this token. When or if you reach the top of this track, you will also get 7 victory points immediately. If you choose to put a park ranger, meaning the purple meeple here, you will again pay 1 coin less. So we have been talking about these bonus tokens, but what do they actually give you? Well, they are actually quite self-explanatory. This one here will let you gain 2 basic DNAs of any color. This one here will let you gain 1 advanced DNA of any color. Here you will gain 2 coins. This one will let you increase security by 1. And here you gain a worker in any color. So now we get to the last one, and the one that is my favorite. For each worker you place here, you can choose a tile in your park that has at least one empty dino slot, and then spend some DNA to make a dino. Each of these dino paddocks has 4 slots, where you can place dinosaurs, but you need to fill them from left to right. The total DNA cost to produce a dinosaur can be seen underneath the name of the dino. So here, 1 blue basic DNA and 1 purple advanced DNA. But on these slots there can also be extra DNAs that needs to be consumed to be able to place a dino here. So if you want to fill this all the way out to the most right spot, you also need to spend 1 more advanced DNA. In the top right corner of these tiles, you can see which type of dinosaur it is. In this case, this is a plant eater, meaning one of the green little meeples. So once you have paid the DNA, you can put out your meeple in the leftmost spot, but also gaining any victory points stated on that spot. Besides the plant eaters, we also have big meat eaters and smaller meat eaters. And again, it will say what DNA needed and what you gain once you place them. And to make a dinosaur, you can use any type of meeple worker as you like to. But as you create dinosaurs, the threat will also rise in your park. The threat being these red little dots that you can see here between the lightning ball and the victory points. Meaning that if you place a dino on the first spot, the threat will go up by 1. And it will of course become higher and higher the more dinos you have in your park. If your threat token ever reaches number 10, meaning the top, we need to put one of these tokens at the bottom. The first time we put it with the +10 side up, and then we reset the track. But if you ever reach the top one more time, we now need to flip this token over to the +20 side instead, and then reset. So that was the private actions, and now we go into phase number 4. This is the Geek tour, and where we get to take our little car here and go out into our park and actually activate the tiles that we now have. Again, this is done simultaneously. The Meeple Tour always starts at your welcome center. And how many steps you can take in your park is determined by how many of these root tokens you have. Because you can move 1 tile per root token. A Meeple Tour always starts at your welcome center. And how many tiles you can move out in your park is determined by how many of these root tokens that you have. Because you can move 1 tile per root token. When you move your Jeep, you can only move 2 adjacent tiles that is connected to the one that your Jeep is currently on. Once you have moved away from a tile, you put 1 root token on the tile that you have moved away from. And now you cannot go back to this tile during this turn. Next time you move your next step, you will again put a new root token on the tile that you have just exited. In this way, you can keep a track on where you have been. Now the first step here is to place any workers if you are on a special building. Because here there will be a little place for you to place a worker. Some of these here may have a specific meeple type that you need to place. In this case, for example, it needs to be the green meeple, but some of them will show that you can place any color meeple. Some of these worker slots has an excitement cost, which means that you need to withdraw the amount stated on the tile to be able to place a worker. And if you cannot pay that amount of excitement, well, you cannot place a worker. The next step would be to gain excitement. And you can see the amount of excitement you get at the bottom of the tile. If there would have been any boredom tokens here, for example 2, you would need to take the excitement minus that value. So in this case you would only get 1 excitement. But if there is no boredom tokens, you would of course get the full value. And advance on the excitement track. If you would end up in a situation where the excitement value becomes negative, like in this case here, 3 minus 5 would become -2, right? then you would instead need to spend 2 excitements to be able to activate this tile. The next step would be to increase the boredom on the tile. If there is no boredom already, you simply put a number 1 on that tile. But if there already is a boredom token, well then you would need to add a boredom token with 2. And if there's already one with 2, then you would need to take 3, 4 and so on. You simply gain a boredom value on this step. Once we have gone through those steps, when we have placed a worker, we have paid excitement, we have gained boredom and so on, we actually get to do the action stated on the tile. That happens now. Now, this might seem like a lot of steps to do the actions on the tile, but remember, we're doing this simultaneously, meaning that now you are sitting, moving your Jeeple around, doing the different steps, putting out workers and moving around. So it actually does not take that long time. So that was the special buildings, but we of course also have the dino paddocks. And here you can gain excitement. Down here you have a row of excitement levels. These matches the dinosaur's spots that you have on the top. Meaning that if you have a dinosaur matching this spot, you will get 2 excitement. If you have a dino on the other spot, you will get 2 excitements. These 2 last ones here we do not get, because we don't have any dinosaurs. We will add up this value, minus any boredom tokens on the tile, if there is any. So in this case here, we would get 2 plus 2 minus 2, giving us a total of 2 excitements. The second step would again be to raise the boredom. If there is no boredom to start with, we would put a 1. But if there already is one, we would need to raise this value. In this case here, we go from 2 up to 3. And the last step on a dino tile is to make the danger roll. Because when you are handling dinosaurs, well, death might happen. So we need to find the die corresponding to this tile. In this case, a green die. Now we need to roll this die. For each danger symbol that you get, meaning the skull symbol here, you will get 1 death token. Looking like that. And even if we have several dinosaurs here, we will only roll this die once. Now we get to keep this token to end of game scoring. Once we have done our little Dinosaur, well, we come into phase number 5, which is the last phase of a round. And this here is the cleanup phase, but also where we get some income. We need to return our little Jeep back to the welcome center. And then we need to take our little root arrows here and put them next to our lab board again. Any workers that we have put out in our park needs to go back into the general supply. If we have any bonuses on our Jeeple track, we would also gain those bonuses now, even if we placed one of these bonuses during this round. And now we would need to look at the excitement level to see how many coins we get. Once we have received those coins, we also need to reset our excitement level. The next step is to evaluate our threat and security level, because if our security is lower than our threat, we will gain 1 death token per difference between these 2 tracks. This means that if the threat level is 1 step higher than the security level, well then you gain 1. But if it would be 2 higher, well then you would gain another threat level. We need to return the DNA die to the bag. We also need to discard the 2 last dino pad tiles in a discard pile, slide the last one forward, and then refill the tiles with new dinosaur paddocks. And then we need to do the exact same thing with the special buildings as well. Take away the last 2 ones, slide these forwards, and then refill with new exciting buildings. If the dino paddocks pile ever runs out of tiles, we simply shuffle the discard pile back and then we put new tiles here again. But if the special buildings run out, well then we do not refill them. And now we need to reset the turn order, because the one that has the most victory points will be number 1. The ones that has second most will be number 2. And finally the ones that has last victory points will become number 3. So that is the 5 different phases that we go through during our turn. Once we have gone through all of the rounds, we need to determine who is the winner, and you will get 1 victory point per coin you have. So if you have 10 in this case, you will get 10 points. But do you remember these little death tokens? Well, first we need to figure out which player has the fewest death tokens. And then that player gets to remove all of his death tokens, while the rest of the players get rid of the same amount of tokens. And then, depending on how many tokens they still have left, they will withdraw victory points from the total score. How many victory points? Well, you can check that out in the rulebook. There you have it, my friend. That was Dinosaur World. I like this game quite a lot. I mean, I am not the biggest fan of tile placement games, but I think that here it really works. You got your little workers, you got your little jeeple here going out in the park. You build up your area just the way you want to. You get to do the public actions as well. I think that this game is a great little combination of worker placement, tile placement, adventure, dinosaurs, everything. I mean, I really like this game. I like the artwork a lot. If you want to know more about the game, well, check out the links down in the description and it will take you straight to Pandasaurus and the game. If you like my video, my friend, well, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. But most importantly, if you've seen my video before, you know what I'm gonna say. Please keep spreading that board gaming love I know you all have. Peace out.